The signal from beyond. The signal arrived on Earth at precisely 3:42 Greenwich Mean Time, a faint whisper among the cosmic noise that perpetually washed over humanity's deep space monitoring arrays. Most civilizations would have missed it entirely, a fragmented plea encoded in a format no human system had ever encountered. But humans, unlike their galactic neighbors, had never stopped listening to the dark. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen was halfway through her night shift at the Ganymede listening post when the anomaly registered on her console. A 20-year veteran of Earth's Interstellar Communications Corps, Chen had monitored thousands of signals. Routine chatter from interspecies trade routes, the mathematical pulses of navigation beacons, and the occasional encrypted military transmission. This was different. Computer, isolate frequency band Delta 96 and enhance, Chen ordered, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The visualization materialized above her station, a complex oscillating pattern that resembled no known communication protocol. Signal contains non-standard encryption and multiple embedded data layers, the AI announced. Preliminary analysis suggests distress protocol similarities to abandoned Valkyrie emergency systems, but with significant modifications. Chen's heart rate quickened. The Valkyrie were an ancient species that had vanished from known space over 3 centuries ago. Any connection to their technology warranted immediate attention. Forward to UNSC Command with Priority Flag Alpha. Wake up, Admiral Kazan. 7 hours later, Commander Ilara Hayes stood before the United Nations Space Command Security Council, her tall frame rigid with military discipline, despite having been awoken from a rare full night's sleep. At 42, Hayes had earned her reputation through 15 years of diplomatic and military service on humanity's frontier colonies. The council chamber buzzed with tension as she completed her briefing. The signal's origin point lies beyond the Perseus void in uncharted space, Hayes explained, indicating a glowing red marker on the holographic star map. No known species has established colonies in that region. Admiral Kazan, a stern woman with steel-gray hair and cybernetic implants visible at her temples, leaned forward. And you're certain this is a genuine distress call? As certain as we can be without direct verification, Hayes replied. The encryption patterns match known emergency protocols, and our AI consensus calculation gives it a 92% probability of being authentic. Counselor Yamamoto, the civilian representative from the Mars colonies, adjusted his glasses nervously. Have we shared this information with the Galactic Concord? Hayes exchanged a glance with Admiral Kazan before answering. We notified them 6 hours ago. Their response was concerning. The holographic display shifted to show a formal communication bearing the ornate insignia of the Galactic Concord, an alliance of 17 advanced species that had reluctantly welcomed humanity into their ranks just 23 years earlier. They're advising us to ignore it, Counselor Ibarra said incredulously, reading the message. They claim the signal originates from a restricted sector and that intervention would violate Concord Treaty Section 47. Exactly, Hayes confirmed. But our analysts found no record of this restriction in any treaty databases we have access to. Furthermore, the Concord has refused to elaborate on why the sector is off-limits. Admiral Kazan's expression darkened. They're hiding something. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled leaders. Humanity had walked a delicate line since joining the galactic community, often finding themselves at odds with the older species' conservative approach to expansion and intervention. If someone needs help out there, Hayes said, breaking the silence, and everyone else has chosen to ignore them, then perhaps it falls to us to answer. Counselor Ibarra smiled thinly. Playing the heroes again, Commander. The Concord already views humans as dangerous and unpredictable. This won't help that perception. With respect, Counselor, Hayes replied. I don't care about their perception. I care about doing what's right. 3 days later, the UNSC Horizon, an advanced deep space reconnaissance vessel under Commander Hayes' command, prepared to depart Earth's orbital shipyard. The sleek, charcoal-gray ship represented the pinnacle of human military technology. Faster, more adaptable, and far more resilient than anything the Concorde believed humanity capable of building. On the bridge, Hayes surveyed her crew of 45 specialists, each handpicked for this mission. Lieutenant Raj Kapoor, her tactical officer, approached with a datapad. "Final diagnostics are green, Commander. All systems optimal," he reported. "But we've received another warning from the Concorde diplomatic office. They're threatening sanctions if we proceed." Hayes accepted the datapad without looking at it. "File it with the others, Lieutenant." "Yes, Mom." Kapoor hesitated. "The Arthosian ambassador has requested to come aboard before departure. He claims it's urgent." Hayes frowned. The Arthosians were among the eldest species in the Concorde, renowned for their caution and conservatism. "Have him escorted to my ready room." Ambassador Threll was waiting when Hayes arrived. Tall, slender, with the characteristic iridescent scales of his species shifting color with his mood. Currently, they reflected a troubled violet. "Commander Hayes," he began without preamble, his translator converting the complex harmonic language into crisp English. "I come unofficially to urge you to reconsider this mission." Hayes gestured to a chair. "Please, Ambassador. I value your counsel, but we've reviewed the Concorde's warnings extensively." Threll remained standing. "What I tell you now is not sanctioned by the Concorde. Indeed, sharing this information violates several of our most sacred protocols." His scales darkened. "The region you intend to enter was quarantined 60,000 years ago after an incident we call the Severance." Hayes leaned forward. Her interest piqued. "What kind of incident?" "A war unlike any the galaxy had witnessed before or since. It ended with the complete extinction of 2 elder species and the collapse of an entire civilization. The details were deliberately purged from official records." "And the distress signal?" Threll's inner eyelids flickered, an Arthosian expression of distress. "Impossible. Nothing should remain alive in that sector. If something is calling for help from that place, Commander Hayes, it may not be what it appears." "Or," Hayes countered, "it could be survivors who have been abandoned by the galaxy for millennia." "You humans," Threll said, his voice carrying a complex emotion the translator couldn't fully capture, "always rushing toward danger instead of away from it. This quality makes your species uniquely troubling." Hayes smiled slightly. "We prefer the term courageous." "The difference is merely semantic," Threll replied. "I have fulfilled my obligation to warn you. What happens next will be on your conscience." He moved toward the door, but paused before exiting. "One final piece of advice, Commander. If you encounter the Harvesters, do not attempt communication or negotiation. They do not recognize such concepts." Before Hayes could question him further, the ambassador was gone. 20 hours later, the Horizon crossed the boundary of mapped space, its quantum drives propelling it through the void at speeds that had astonished Concorde engineers when humans first demonstrated the technology. In her quarters, Hayes reviewed Ambassador Threll's warning for the dozenth time, searching for any clue about what they might encounter. Her communications officer's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, we're receiving a direct transmission from Admiral Kazan. Priority Alpha." Hayes activated her view screen. "Admiral." Kazan's face appeared, her expression grim. "Commander, we've intercepted Concorde military communications. They're dispatching an enforcement fleet to intercept you." "On what grounds?" Hayes demanded. "They're claiming your mission violates multiple quarantine protocols and threatens galactic security." Kazan's cybernetic eye glinted. "You have new orders. Accelerate your timeline. Find the source of that signal before they catch up to you. If someone's alive out there, get them out. And if we encounter these harvesters the Arthosian mentioned." Kazan's expression hardened. "Use your judgment, Commander. But remember, humanity doesn't abandon those who need help, even when the rest of the galaxy would prefer we look the other way." The transmission ended, leaving Hayes with a growing sense that they were heading into something far more complex than a simple rescue mission. She called the bridge. "Lieutenant Kapoor, push our drives to maximum sustainable output. Calculate the most direct course to the signal origin." "Already done, Commander," came the reply. "ETA is 37 hours at maximum velocity." "Make it 30, Hayes ordered, "and begin battle preparations. I want all systems at combat readiness." "Combat readiness? Are we expecting trouble, Commander?" Hayes stared at the star map displaying their course into the unknown darkness. "Always, Lieutenant. That's how we stay alive out here." As the horizon accelerated beyond its rated specifications, pushing deeper into uncharted space, the signal grew stronger. The ship's AI had made progress decrypting portions of the message. Fragmentary pleas for assistance, coordinates, and scattered references to entities called the Devourers. 2 days later, the horizon dropped out of quantum space at the edge of an unremarkable yellow dwarf system. Scans revealed 3 planets, 2 gas giants, and 1 seemingly barren rocky world orbiting within the habitable zone. The signal originated from the latter. "Emissions analysis suggests artificial structures on the surface," reported Science Officer Dr. Ileana West, her fingers swiping through holographic data streams. "But there's significant interference preventing detailed scans." "Life signs?" Hayes asked. "Inconclusive," West replied. "But there's definitely power being generated somewhere on the surface." Hayes studied the planet's image on the main view screen. Its gray-brown surface showed no obvious signs of civilization from orbit, no city lights, no visible infrastructure. Yet something down there was calling for help. "Prepare a landing team," she ordered. "Full tactical gear, first contact protocols, and emergency extraction contingencies." 4 hours later, Hayes led a team of 8 specialists toward the planet's surface in a heavily armored shuttle. As they descended through the atmosphere, the barren landscape revealed itself in greater detail. Vast stretches of ash-gray terrain interrupted by the occasional glinting structure half buried in dust. "Those aren't natural formations," observed Lieutenant Kapoor, indicating the geometric shapes below. "No," Hayes agreed. "Those are ruins." The shuttle sensors locked onto the signal's point of origin. A massive structure partially embedded in a mountainside, its architecture unlike anything in Concord records. The design featured flowing, organic curves interspersed with crystalline segments that still reflected sunlight despite obvious damage. "Set us down half a kilometer away," Hayes instructed the pilot. "I don't want to risk a closer approach until we know what we're dealing with." As the shuttle touched down, Hayes felt a familiar tension, the electric anticipation that preceded every first contact scenario. But this was different. They weren't making first contact with an unknown species. They were answering a call that everyone else had chosen to ignore. The team deployed in standard formation, weapons ready but not aimed, their environmental suits protecting them from the thin, cold atmosphere. Hayes took point, leading them toward the massive structure. As they approached, details emerged, intricate patterns etched into surfaces that resembled both metal and stone simultaneously, technology seamlessly integrated with what appeared to be grown, rather than built materials. "Commander," Dr. West called, her voice tense over the comm. "I'm detecting movement inside the structure." Hayes raised a closed fist, halting the team. "Hostile." "Negative." "The patterns suggest they're hiding." Hayes activated her suit's external speakers. "This is Commander Ilara Hayes of the United Nations Space Command Vessel Horizon. We received your distress signal and have come to help. We mean you no harm." For several long moments, only silence answered. Then, a section of the structure's wall shifted, revealing an opening where none had been visible before. A figure emerged, humanoid but distinctly alien, with a slender frame that stood nearly 7 feet tall. Its skin shimmered with a pale blue luminescence, and multiple pairs of eyes lined the upper portion of its face. The alien raised long, 6-fingered hands, in what Hayes recognized as a universal gesture of non-aggression. Then it spoke, its voice a melodious series of tones that the team's translators struggled to process. "You came," the alien said finally, wonder evident in its translated words. "All these cycles of waiting, and you actually came." Hayes lowered her weapon completely. "We received your distress call. Who are you?" "I am Sentinel Neverin of the Naivith Remnant." The alien's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "You are human?" "Yes," Hayes confirmed, surprised. "You know of our species." The alien made a gesture that the translator identified as expressing reverence. "The Ancient Ones foretold your coming. They said when all hope seemed lost, a young species would answer our call, one that had not forgotten its compassion in the long night of stars." Hayes exchanged glances with her team. "The Ancient Ones. Those who seeded our worlds before the harvesters came," Neverin explained. "Those who sacrificed themselves to give us time to hide. We were told your sector had been quarantined after something called the Severance," Hayes said carefully. Neverin's luminescence dimmed noticeably. "Is that what they call it now?" "The great betrayal when the elder species abandoned us to the harvesters." The alien gestured toward the vast structure behind them. 60,000 years we have hidden here, the last 12,000 in hibernation, waking only to send our call when our sensors detected new civilizations rising. And no one ever answered. Dr. West asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. "Many received our call," Neverin replied. "All chose to ignore it. All but you." The alien's gaze fixed on Hayes. "But you have come too late, Commander of Earth. The harvesters have awakened again. They approach even now." As if summoned by the words, the team's sensors began blaring warnings. Lieutenant Kapoor checked his tactical display, his expression growing alarmed. "Commander, multiple objects have just appeared at the system's edge. They're moving toward the planet at incredible speed." Hayes looked at Neverin, whose luminescence had faded to a frightened pale blue. "The harvesters?" The alien nodded, all 6 eyes fixed on the sky. "They come to complete what they began 60 millennia ago, the consumption of all sapient life in this sector." "How many survivors are with you?" Hayes demanded. 817, Neverin answered. "All that remains of a civilization that once spanned 12 star systems." Hayes activated her comm link to the horizon. "Emergency Protocol Alpha. Prepare for immediate evacuation of up to 900 refugees, and get me everything we have on these incoming vessels." As the sun began to set on the barren planet, Hayes stared at the approaching threat displayed on her tactical screen. The horizon's sensors had identified at least 27 vessels of enormous size, each larger than any Concord capital ship on record. "We're out of time," she told Neverin. "We need to evacuate your people now." The alien placed a 6-fingered hand on Hayes' armored shoulder. "You would risk yourselves for us. Strangers you've only just met." Hayes smiled grimly. "That's what humans do. We don't leave people behind. Especially not people who've been waiting 60,000 years for someone to answer their call." As evacuation procedures began, Hayes couldn't help but wonder if this was why the Concorde had been so determined to prevent their mission. Not to protect humanity from an ancient danger, but to hide the evidence of their greatest moral failure, the abandonment of an entire civilization to extinction. The first harvester ships would reach the planet within hours. The race to save the last of the Naivith had begun, and humanity's reputation as the most unpredictable species in the galaxy was about to be firmly cemented, for better or worse.